a PhD student at the Vrije Universiteit in Amsterdam, and I'm also presenting from the Netherlands now. And I'm going to talk to you about the roles of variables in the Hedy programming language. The roles of variables is a framework that was created by Jorma Sajanimi, a researcher from Finland, and it consists of 11 roles. And with only these 11 roles, we can describe 99% of all the variables in novice programs. And this is very useful because it has shown that when this is used in education, it gives the students a better comprehension and better programming skills. So when I read about this, I thought, let's apply this to Hedy. Before I will tell you more about the Hedy programming language, let's go through the 11 roles quickly. This is the list of the 11 roles. So the fixed value already says it in the name, I think. This is a variable that does not change after the initialization. When iterating in a loop, there is always a variable stepping through a list of values. So that is the role of stepper, whose value can be predicted as soon as the succession starts. This can be an integer, but it could also be more complicated. Instead of every time I plus 1, it could also be size becomes size divided by 2, for example. A flag is a variable that shows that something has happened or that something is the case, and this is very often a Boolean. A walker traverses a data structure similar to a stepper. The difference lies in the way the data structure is traversed. A stepper always iterates over a list of values that are known beforehand. A walker, on the other hand, is a variable that traverses a data structure in a way that is unknown before the loop starts. Walkers can traverse lists, stacks, or trees, for example. The most recent holder and most wanted holder are already also quite clear in the name, I think. A variable that holds the latest value encountered in going through a series of values is the most recent holder. And often when you are iterating over a list of values, you are doing that to search for a certain value. So the variable that holds that value or the best value found so far is the most wanted holder. The gatherer is a variable that takes multiple values and makes it into one value. For example, if you have multiple different grades and you want to calculate the average grade, then that will be the gatherer. A container is a variable that holds multiple different elements. So this could be a list or an array or a stack or a tree, for example. A follower is a variable that is coupled to another variable. For example, if you are traversing a linked list, you might need a pointer to a previous value. That will be the follower. The organizer is sometimes needed when a variable has to be transformed in some way for further processing. Maybe you have a given list and you need a sorted version of that list. That will be an organizer. A temporary is a variable that's only used briefly, often called temp or T. So the Hedy programming language is created by Felienne Hermans, and what makes this language so special and unique is that it's a gradual programming language and it's also multilingual, and it's specifically built for teaching. So let me tell you a little bit about where the inspiration came from. Felienne Hermans started teaching programming and she started out using Scratch. I think many of you might know this language. It's a block-based programming language. And at some point, the students didn't want to use this language anymore because it was a toy to them and they really wanted an adult programming language, a textual programming language. So the logical next step was to use Python. In this particular example, we see repetition, we see a for loop, but for the students it was a lot of syntax. I need a colon there, brackets there, spaces there, and especially if you know Python, you know that spaces are really important. One space too many or too little can already make the program not run properly. So this syntax created a cognitive overload. So Felienne wondered what can we do against this cognitive overload and how do other subjects deal with this? How do we prevent this cognitive overload? So, for example, if you take natural language learning, how do we learn to write in our own language? We don't start out with complete sentences and proper punctuation. We just start out with writing letters. And once we learn how to write the letters, we start with complete words. And then the teacher is super happy that we know how to write cat in tree. And then we learn that we can start a sentence with a capital letter and end it with a dot. And then we learn that we can also use multiple lines to make a sentence. And then we finally get to complete sentences that start with capital letters that have proper punctuation. So the rules change gradually. So why not teach code gradually as well? What this looks like in practice is this. Hedy has 18 different levels. In level 1, as you can see, the syntax is very simple. And in level 18, it's actually correct Python syntax. The design goals of Hedy are as follows. Concepts are offered at least 3 times in different forms. The concept is introduced as simple as possible, and only one aspect changes at a time. Syntactic elements are deferred to the latest moment possible and the concepts are interleaved. And it's always possible to create meaningful programs. The Hedy interface looks like this. On the top left you can see some explanations and exercises. On the top right, examples that can easily be copy-pasted into the editor on the bottom left, and the output is on the bottom right. You can see that there are multiple different tabs. Those are for different adventures with their own explanations and exercises. And we are here in level 2, where variables are introduced for the first time. On the bottom right, below the output, you can see in blue that there is a list of variables and their values. And on the top right, you might notice the word English. So when Hedy was tested for the first time, that was with Dutch children. And the children were very positive about Hedy, but they also said they really wanted to learn how to program in Dutch. So Felienne made that happen, and from there it was not just English and Dutch, but more languages kept being added, because if Dutch children already prefer to program in their own language, this must also be true for so many other children all over the world, because Dutch is a language that's quite close to English with the same alphabet. But this must even more be true for students that have a mother tongue with a completely different alphabet, or maybe even a language that's not left to right but right to left. So now Hedy is available in 54 languages, and some examples are shown here. It might even be more, because there's always more languages being added, and every time I give this talk the number goes up. So let's get back to what I've been doing and get back to the roles of variables. To see how I could make this framework fit the Hedy programming language best, I first looked into research into the roles of variables and Python, because Python is so similar to Hedy. In this research, it was recommended to have the organizer and container be just one role, because they are so similar. So we're just using container and not the organizer. They also recommended to split the fixed value up into 2 different roles, so that would become constant and fixed value. And the difference lies in that the fixed value would be an input variable that does not change after just one time asking input from the users, while the constant is not input, but it is still a variable that does not change after the initialization. And for extra clarity, I decided to use input to make the difference between constant and that role very clear. I also decided to use the word list for container, because specifically in the Hedy programming language, the only type of container that we encounter are lists. In other languages, you might also have stacks or trees or arrays, but since Hedy does not have that, but only has lists, it makes sense to use the easier word, namely list. Also, the follower and the temporary are a bit more advanced, a bit too complicated for the Hedy language, so we can also get rid of those from our list. And then finally, the most recent and the most wanted holder are both possible to use with the Hedy language, but they do not appear in any of the content of Hedy. So when we look at all the examples and explanations and exercises given, the most recent and most wanted holder do not appear. So I decided to keep those 2 in the back of my mind, but for creating my prototype to integrate the roles of variables into Hedy, I thought it was important to make sure I adjust the framework to the Hedy language and not the other way around. So for now, I would not use the most recent and most wanted holder, but just have these 7 roles as a start for this prototype. It would look like this. As I mentioned, in blue below the output, we can have a list of the variables with their names and values. And now if we use the prototype that I built, you can also see the roles that the different variables have. This is quite a boring example though, because name and age are both constants. So I will show you a bit more complicated example from, I think, level 10. Here we have a list, animals, dog, cat, blobfish, and a for loop, animal for animal in animals. And as you can see, animals is a list, and animal is a walker. And in the first time we go in the loop, it is a dog, then it becomes a cat, and then it becomes a blobfish. And finally, it shows that the animal does change its value, but the role stays walker. And animals is not only a list, but it's also a constant. But in this case, we always want the role that shows best what the variable does should be the role it shows. So if a variable is called constant, it is because all the other roles were not a proper fit, but it is a constant. So if it is a constant and something else, we will mention that something else as the role. So if we look at where the different roles appear in Hedy, in this table you can see the distribution. So in level 1 we don't have any roles because the variables are not introduced yet. The concept of variables is introduced the first time in level 2, so then we can have constants and input variables. In level 3 lists are added. In level 8 we have steppers for the first time. In level 10 the walker. In level 14 the gatherer, and in level 15 the flag. This is still a work in progress though. When I was working on this prototype, I knew that that another programmer from the Hedy team was working on integrating booleans in Hedy, and I knew that was going to happen from level 15 on, but that was not finished yet. But when that will be finished, then the flag could also be added. And I was hoping before today to have the gatherer implemented as well, but I did not manage that. The other roles are implemented though, and I could see in the content of Hedy where these roles could appear. So let's talk about the future work. Because my paper has mainly been about the design and the implementation and presentation. But when this prototype is completely finished, of course, there should be also an empirical evaluation of this finished prototype. It would be very interesting to see what teachers and students that use Hedy think of this. And then we could also look into the visualization. I've now mainly made sure that what I did not clutter up the current interface of Hedy. But it would be important to think about how we can visualize the different roles better, maybe use icons or animations for this, and how we would integrate this in the lesson material. Because if you start using these roles, then the roles should also be explained to the students. And we could also think about how to use it for exercises. For example, we could also use this to assess the students' understanding of their own code. I've recently read an interesting paper about this, how we could automatically ask questions about their learner's own code. So we could, for example, ask a question, in your code you use this variable, and what role does this variable have, or which role would fit this variable best? It could be a multiple choice question. So there are lots of different ways in which we could use this for the lesson material. And I think it's also important to look into the naming of the roles, because for starters, Hedy is of course multilingual, so there should be translations for the different role names. We already have the English names, and Sayanimi also gave it Finnish names, so we have Finnish translations. And I also proposed Dutch translations for the roles that I've used for Hedy. But aside from this, we might also want to look into the existing names to see which names would describe what the roles mean best, because that's very important for the understanding as well. So lots of interesting different directions for future research. And it would also be possible to contribute to Hedy in other ways, because Hedy is open source. There's a big community of teachers, researchers, programmers and translators. There's a Discord server where everyone can ask their questions, and the Hedy repository is available on GitHub. And if you want to try the Hedy language yourself, you can find it in your browser on hedy.org. Thank you for your attention.
Yes, it should be on. Okay. Thank you, Julia, for the interesting talk. I hope you will be able to hear us quite soon. Are there any questions in the audience here? Yes, I see two. Go ahead. Is she hearing us already? Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. Hi, Julia.
Hi.
Yeah, thank you for your talk. One of the things I didn't see in your presentation is if you integrate at all one of the most effective teaching tools that we have, which is called type-driven design. So I see that you're operating on lists, for example, but I didn't hear you say anything about how you explain to students how to process a list.
That's part of, okay, sorry, I'm hearing myself twice, I think. Oh, I think it's okay. Okay. So how to work with a list is already part of the Hedy language and in the Hedy explanations and exercises. So it is possible in Hedy, I think from level 3 on, to add things to a list and remove things from a list. So that's not something that my prototype adds. So yeah, lists already sort of exist in Hedy, but now my prototype specifically uses these roles also for other variables to show what they are, and that you can also see it aside from the name of a variable and the value of a variable. You can also see the role that it has. For a list, it is maybe quite straightforward, but the word list specifically for this role is already used in the explanations and the exercises in Hedy.
Thank you.
Does that
Another
answer your question?
Yeah, another question.
Thank you very much for the talk. It was very informative. It's a little bit related to the question before, but have you thought about maybe having the ability for the students to either use naming conventions or annotations or something like that to inform themselves of what kind of like type of variable they're using? For example, in JavaScript, I think you can do either let bindings or other kind of bindings that kind of differentiate between things being constant and not constant. And if that might actually drive the students learning better by actually having to identify what kind of variable they're actually working with. So, thank you.
Yes, I think this can go really hand in hand. I think it is important to teach students how to name their variables properly and not have them name variables X and Y, which is not helpful at all, but to make their code readable for other programmers as well. And I think this roles of variables framework can really help with that. I'm not sure it would be useful for Hedy specifically to be really strict about the naming conventions. But I think the roles of variables could, for starters, be useful to teach why we would want this, why we want to give a variable a certain name and not another name. And I think it's also useful indeed to assess the understanding of students of their own code. If we ask them, okay, here we have a code snippet with a variable X, what would be a good name for X? Look at what role this variable has and what name should you then give it to make it a nice and descriptive name. So I think this roles of variables framework can be really useful for that.
Thank you, Julia. Another question?
Yes, I guess this is a follow-up in a similar vein, but I'm wondering how the end users or the students' experience changes with these roles. You mentioned that the IDE can show people what role a given variable has. Are there other things you can do with this?
So the prototype has not been tested yet. So I know, well, when I run Hedy locally, I can just put the feature flag on true, and then it will show the different roles, and that's all it does right now. So it takes the student's program to then see which roles the variables have and to show it in that little variable view. I think it would be good to, in the future, do something more with it than just showing the role. So it should be integrated more in the sense that it's in the content, and that maybe we could create some icons or animations to explain what these roles are. So it would be cool to have interviews or some other empirical evaluation with students and teachers to get their ideas and to hear what they think about this, but that has not yet happened yet.
Okay, Julia, thank you very much. Maybe a last round of applause, and then we will go for a little break.